Hello, this is the Guts Kumar. I'm back and continuing from where we left off in the Aramaic Breetah, the Genesis in English, or the Bereshit in Hebrew. Okay, basically this is the genealogy, the lineage, details of Adam and Eve. Okay. Adam being the heir, right? This is his male lineage, or his lineage. Okay, his descendants. Okay, so the scripture of Adam's birth in the eon that God created Adam in the likeness of God. He created him, male and female created them, and God blessed them, and He called their name Adam in the eon with an immeasurable period, era, eon, a day with a capital D, that He created them. And Adam lived 130 years, and he produced offspring in his own image, and he called his name Seth. Okay, that was the heir, right? Because Cain killed Abel, and Eve declared that he was a son born to her as a replacement, because Cain killed Abel. And Adam lived 130 years, and he produced offspring in his own image, and he called his name Seth. And they started to call on the name of the Lord, his descendants. And Adam's line after the birth of Seth lived 800 years, and to him were born many sons and daughters. So he continued on, and he had many sons and daughters after Seth. Okay? And it's talking about his lineage, right? Lived on. It's not saying that he lived to 800 years. Yeah, must be a very active old man to be able to have so many children like that, right? Okay, so Adam's entire line was 930 years altogether, and it ended. So it's not saying, as in the American modernized versions, that he died at the age of 930. It's saying that's how long his lineage lasted for. Okay, from him to the last sons and daughter that he had, right? Yeah, because he went on and he had more sons and daughters. Yeah. And then Seth was going on having more sons and daughters. You understand? Okay. And then Seth's line lived on for what does it say here? He had a son called Enosh, and Seth's line after Enosh was born to him 807 years, and he brought forth sons and daughters. You see, so he brought forth more. That's what it's trying to take. Again, it went on and on like that up until Enoch, and Enoch lived 665 years, and to him was born Methuselah. Okay. And Enoch glorified God after the birth of Methuselah for 300 years, did likewise. He brought forth sons and daughters, and Enoch's entire line was 365 years. Okay, and Enoch praised God for his duty, for which God had consecrated him. Okay, so it still doesn't say here, even if this is mentioning about that same Enoch from the book of Enoch, it's not saying that he didn't die and was taken up into space. You can't see it here. Okay, but yeah, that's definitely the same Enoch in the previous video, born from Erad, son of Erad. Then he had a son called Methuselah. 521, literal Aramaic name, Matushak. Yeah. And it carries on. Methuselah's line lived after the birth of Lamech 782 years, and he brought forth sons and daughters. And then Lamech, and then finally down to Noah. Noah's line was 500 years, and to him were born Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Okay. Genesis 6. And while human beings began to multiply on the face of the earth, daughters were born to them. Okay, so you've got the holy line, those who called on the name of God, children of God, sons of God. And then you have the unholy. Okay, Cain's lot. Yeah, they went of God. Yeah, they just followed their own desires. Yeah. Then you got those Neanderthals running around somewhere, right, east of Eden. Okay, so while human beings began to multiply on the face of the earth, daughters were born to them. The sons of God saw that the daughters of men, that's children of God, those holy line of God, saw that the daughters of men, the unholy line, right, natural man, they were hot, they were beautiful, right? Okay. Down here 6:2, right? Genesis 6:2. In the footnote, literal Aramaic expression, daughters of the human being. Okay. Daughters of men. They were beautiful, and so they picked for themselves women whomever they pleased. Right? And the Lord said, my spirit does not reside in the human being forever, because he is flesh, because he's following the flesh, right? And his lifespan became 120 years. It got cut down to 120 years. Okay? Because of that, his lifespan becomes 120 years. And they were giants in the earth. They were giants in the earth in those ages and even later, because the sons of God, the children of God, the holy line entered upon the daughters of men, the unholy line, and there was born to them aliens. A footnote there. It's not talking about little green men or E.T. or Yoda, right? Okay. It says here 6:413 literal Aramaic idiom or expressions, strange creatures, hybrid forms, monstrously large Neanderthals. Probably because they're so closely related. You know, coming from Adam's line and then Cain's line. Okay, DNA too close, genetically screwed up. Okay. So what came of them? Became of them. In those ages and even later, because the sons of God entered upon the daughters of men, and they were born to them aliens, hybrid forms, monstrously large Neanderthals. Okay, to them aliens who were giants of universal fame. They were renowned. They were, well known, worldly known, right? Legend. Okay, and the Lord saw that means evil spread on the earth, and every dissipation of their heart. Excuse became worse with every age. So all these descendants must have forgotten about God. They just totally trashed God. Well, don't need God anymore. Just chuck them away. Yeah, look at these beautiful women. We'll just marry. We're like, oh, it's so hot, all that sort of stuff. And they followed their own lusts, desires, sinful ways, and did all these horrible, sinful acts. Whatever you can imagine. Yeah, they were doing it. Yeah. Okay. Pretty sick world, eh? Okay, so yeah, well, that's what it says here. The Lord saw that men's evil spread on the earth, and the dissipation of their hearts, excuse became worse with every age. So it's got every eon, era, they became worse. Worse. Just so filthy, disgusting, sick, and it made their sin got up to reach God, the heavens, up his nostrils, and it stunk. You can smell their rottenness, their wickedness, whatever, right? So it says in the scriptures that he sighed that, or he regretted that he had ever created them. Okay. The Lord saw that men's evil spread on the earth, and every dissipation of their hearts, excuses became worse with every age. And the Lord sighed over his creation of Adam on the earth. In the American modern versions, it says he regretted ever making them. Okay, and there were reservations in his heart. He's thinking, well, I regret making him. I might wipe him out. And the Lord said, I will wipe out the men I have created from the face of the earth, from the human beings to the four-legged animals. He's just going to wipe out everything, to the birds of the sky, because I have regretted having created them. Okay. He sighed over it. Okay. Sighed over that he ever created them. 672 literal Aramaic expression, sighed over. Okay. Damn, what have I done? What have they become? That sort of thing. Okay. I wiped them out. Right. But Noah found mercy in the eyes of the Lord, because he's the only one that was righteous. Okay. See, it didn't mention anything about Enoch being taken off the earth and up in a spaceship or chariot, whatever, and he never died. It didn't mention that. Okay, so maybe he might have died before this, or whatever. It's not mentioned in the story, right? He might have turned and become like them. Who knows? The rest of the world, evil, whatever, right? And then there's only Noah left, as it says. Okay, Noah found mercy in the eyes of the Lord, and obviously his three sons and their wives, right? who probably, chances are they're pregnant. Yeah. So Noah was deemed righteous in the eyes of God, the only one in his family, right? Okay. His sons and their wives. Okay. So and this is the birth of Noah. Noah was a righteous man, and his seed, or his descendants, were wholesome, and Noah worshipped God. Okay. He's the only one that did it. Everyone else chucked God away. And to Noah were born 3 sons, Shem, Cam, and Japheth. And God saw the earth's madness, they were all mental, right, as all flesh had lost its direction toward him on earth. So it all turned their back on him. Oh, we don't want him. We don't do our thing, you know. Oh my God. And the Lord said, all flesh hath gone mad before me, because the earth has been filled by abomination before them. Behold, I will abandon them to their madness together with the earth. Imagine that, like, I don't know how many there were. Let's just have a rough guess, say 30,000, 50,000, maybe more, because they just kept breeding, whatever, right? They all turned their back on him, and they're all doing all these, whatever, you know, killing, assault, thieving, whatever, you know, all these debauchery, whatever, yeah. It was like a mass Sodom and Gomorrah. Imagine that, like every week there's just people just being horrible, you know, like wicked and evil and all the sick, depraved things you see them doing. Yeah, it's unimaginable, but apparently according to this story, they were doing it, right? It's like Sodom and Gomorrah times 100 or 1,000. Okay, so he instructs Noah to make an ark, 300 arm lengths, and its width 50 arm lengths, and its height 30 arm lengths, and make ports for the ark and put a roof over it from above, and make the entrance to the ark in the middle for the lower deck, the second deck, and the third deck. And he's going to bring a deluge of water over the face of the earth to undo every form of living flesh under the sky, and so that everyone on earth is drowned. And I shall make my stand with you, and you shall enter into the ark, and you and your children and your wife and the woman of your sons with you. And one of the birds according to their kind. You know how the Noah story goes, Noah and the ark story, right? It's no need to really get into it and explain it. You know the story there. They all piled up into this ark, and was on the waters for 40 days, 40 nights, and they landed on. Everyone was wiped out right in that area, so they landed on Mount Ararat, got out of the ark, and then made a sacrifice. Then he makes a grapevine and gets drunk and all that sort of stuff, right? Okay. Okay. If you have a look at, as I said in another video before, look at the Irving Finkel. Guy with the white beard, the curator, and his Noah's Ark Great Adventure or something. He tells you that he translated the cuneiform tablets, the Babylonian cuneiform, and his instructions from this god called Anu to this top boat builder to build this boat, because the guy's going to wipe them out. They cheesed them off for some reason. Maybe it's something like they were breeding without permission, because these guys wanted slave workers to go get this gold for the ozone layer of their planet, so it'll survive, it'll carry on, because it's going to die because that gold ozone layer was depleted, blah blah blah. Yeah, so he tells them, here's some instructions to build a boat, do it according to detail, the instructions, get in it, survive. And they did, and it was round, like those black rubber tyres that used to float when you were a kid at the beach, right? Made out of all these twigs and tar and mud and whatever, right? And there's a little house in the centre. Well, this guy and his team recreated them. They're called coracles, and it actually shows on the video they're sailing down some river, right? And he claims they still make them today in Wales and certain parts of some country. Okay, yeah, so it was around. It wasn't as fancy, like, sushi roll looking thing, or submarine, or whatever everyone else dreams up. Okay, with this pretty little ark picture that you see, with all the little giraffes all that hanging out, elephants that you see in the Sunday school books. Yeah, the kids read. It was nothing like that. It was round and it was called coracle. Okay, a little house in the middle there, right? Looked quite weird, but apparently, they all survived. Okay, so because it's all coming from the original Sumerian text, Akkadian, Sumerian, Akkadian, Babylonian myths, cuneiform tablets. It's all coming from there. The Mesopotamians, etc., just adopted it and then adapted it. Changed a few details, like the name of Noah, right, to Nishim or something like that, right, which they pronounced Niptashim or something. They pronounced in Palestine, which was the equivalent to the name Noah. Yeah. Pensham, some funny name like that. Yeah. So these are all the instructions there. Okay. And God tells them enter the ark at a certain time, right? And at the end of the seventh eon, the seventh age, the flood waters were on the earth. Okay, understand this. It's not a worldwide flood. Okay, it didn't go down to Australia and New Zealand yet undiscovered, or the Pacific Islands. Okay, as I stated before, I have a book called the Timetables of History by Bernard Grun, right? Translated by Werner Stein or something like that. I've shown this before. The Timetables of History by Bernard Grun, based on the Werner Stein's Cultivafi. It's been translated into English, and it says at page 3 under what's history or something like that. Have a quick look. G Daily Life, page 3. Disastrous floods in the Mesopotamian region. Why I believe that to be correct is because the earth was just one giant landmass. It hadn't had plate shifts, earthquakes, tremors, whatever, separating all these lands into countries. They're all regions basically for a period of time, over a period of time. Right, because all the people, according to Genesis, meet in one place. Shina, Suma, right? All the men meet in one place. Yeah, they're all coming out of Adam and Eve. They were kicked out of Eden, and they went along the four heads: the Euphrates, the Tigris, the Pishon, and the Gigon. Right, they spread out there and made their little villages and stuff like that. Okay, so it's not a worldwide flood yet. That global flood that they're talking about is when the ice caps melted after the ice age. They all started melting, and that caused a massive flood. Or that scientific claim that a meteorite hit the earth at a certain time, thousands and thousands or billions of years ago, whatever. It caused these tidal waves and tremors and all that sort of stuff. Alright? So yeah, go do your personal research on that. That's just what I've come to the understanding of. Okay, because of that. Even the this book is what that book says, right? Timetables of History. And also what the translator of these original Breetah or Aramaic Genesis has stated on his former website, which is down, that it was disastrous floods in the Mesopotamian region, according to the historical records. Not a worldwide flood yet, but there was one, when the Ice Age ended and everything melted. Okay, but again, go do your own research on that. Don't trust my word, don't take my word for it. Okay, that's just what I've come to understand, perceive. Okay, so everyone dies, everyone's wiped out, all these animals couldn't get in the ark. Okay, according to this, there was a flood for 40 days on the earth, and the water swelled and lifted the ark and it floated above the earth. 40 days, was it? Okay. And those that entered were male, and these are talking about animals. They entered with Noah into the ark, 2 by 2 of every flesh that possessed the breath of life. And those that entered were male and female of every flesh that entered as God had commanded after the Lord secured them inside. There's all the animals, birds, etc. Okay. And there was a flood for 40 days on the earth, and the waters swelled and lifted the ark and it floated above the earth. Okay. Let's have a look at 17. Here's the 7:17. Cycles. Okay. 40 cycles. 40 cycles. The cycles, we go and do research on that to find that word. Okay. That was the 7:16. Okay, close the wood by their faces. Okay, we'll move on. Don't dwell on that for too long. And God recalled Noah. He remembered Noah and all the creatures and all the animals and all the birds that were with him in the ark, and God poured out a spirit over the earth, and the waters were calmed, okay, after a certain amount of time. Okay, in the Sumerian, Akkadian and Babylonian texts, I believe, in the story of the flood, it was actually 6 days. So that's obvious to me that these Mesopotamians or whoever got hold of these stories, they adopted them and adapted them, changed minor details, names, etc., to suit their ideology. Yeah. So after 40 days, Noah opened the ports of the ark that he had made, and he sent out a vulture. Wow, that's a big bird, isn't it? A vulture that took off without returning until the waters dried from the face of the earth. And he sent one of his pigeons to see if the waters had diminished from the face of the earth, and the pigeon could not find a place to rest its feet, and it returned to him because there was water on the surface of the earth, and he extended his hand and received it, and it entered the ark to be with him. And he remained 7 more days, and he went back and sent the pigeon from the ark, and the pigeon came to him in the evening, and there was an olive leaf held in its beak, and then Noah knew that the waters had diminished on the surface of the earth. And again he waited 7 days more, and then sent the pigeon again, and then he did not request that the pigeon should return to him. Okay. Well, the pigeon didn't come back. So it was a pigeon, not a dove, according to this. Okay, and it was in the 601st year, on the first day of the month, that the waters dried off the earth, and Noah crossed the threshold of the cover to the ark, and he looked out and saw that the surface of the earth was dry. And in the 2nd month, on the 27th of the month, the earth was dry. God spoke to Noah and commanded him, "Go out of the ark, you and your wife and sons, together with your sons, woman, and all the creatures with you from all flesh, and the birds and the animals and the 4-legged animals that walk the earth. Let them go out with you, that they may give birth on the land, and that they proliferate and increase upon the earth, multiply, basically, have offspring and increase upon the earth." And there went out Noah and his sons and his wife and the woman of his sons with him, and all the creatures and all the animals and all the birds and all that crawled on earth according to their kind exited from the ark. Okay, does it tell you there where it actually rested, the ark? I don't think so. They say it's Mount Ararat. Oh yeah, here we go. 8:4. And the ark settled down in the 7th month, by the 17th of the month. There you go. So in the 7th month, on the 17th day of that month, on the mountains of the apes. Okay. Kadu or Ararat. Okay. Okay, and Noah built an ark. He built an ark. And Noah built an altar to the Lord, and he consecrated the produce of every pure creature and of every pure bird, and he raised them to the altar as the holocaust. It's a sacrifice. So that's what that holocaust was. It was a mass sacrifice. Somebody committed a sacrifice. And the Lord smelled the scent of fulfillment and contentment, and he said in his heart, "I will not allow again for the earth to be cursed because of humanity, for the aim of the human heart is evil." The human mind, human heart, is evil from its young days, from childhood, and I will not allow all that lives to be struck down again as I did. And from now on, all the ages of the earth will have their seasons for sowing and harvest, rain and drought, summer and winter, day and night, without ceasing. Yeah. Okay, chapters 9 to 12. Okay, I'm going to try and move through this pretty fast. Okay. Genesis 9, God blessed Noah and his children, and he told them, multiply and increase and fill the earth, and your mastery and movement shall be upon all the creatures of the earth, and over all the birds, etc., etc. And every living creature shall be for you a source for food. Again, their byproducts. I give you everything as the foliage of the herb. Right? So all the herbs on the earth, all the foliage, all the bush, native bush, etc. Only the flesh whose soul is in its blood you shall not eat. Okay. Because all animals are living souls, according to the first books, Genesis 1, 2, Right. And every living creature shall be for you a source for food. I give you everything as the foliage of the herb. Only the flesh whose soul is in its blood you shall not eat. For that blood will be required of you from the blood of your own souls. From the blood of each creature it will be required by the hand of a human being or a man and his brother, that the soul of the human being is required. Whoever spills human blood, by the human his blood shall be shed. Because in the image of God Adam was created. And you are to multiply, increase, and bring forth offspring on the earth and grow them. Okay. And God said to Noah and his children together with him, Behold, I will make my standing with you, make a covenant, and with your progeny afterwards, your descendants, together with every living soul with you, and with the birds, the animals, and all the creatures of the earth with you, with everyone that emerges from the ark, and with all creatures of the earth. And I shall make my standing, and it goes on about you'll never wipe out any flesh by the flood waters again, nor will there ever be a flood that destroys the earth again. And God said to Noah, This is a sign of the covenant, the promise that he makes between himself and Noah, and every living soul with you to the end of all ages of the universe. Okay? I will give my rainbow to the clouds, and this will be the sign of my covenant with the earth, my promise with the entire earth. Okay? And he shall recall his covenant with you, and for you, and with every living soul that is with you, and with every flesh, and never again will the waters of the flood destroy your flesh. He's reaffirming his promise through that rainbow. So when you see it in the sky, that's the sign. And he honours that promise. Okay? He remembers that promise when he sees it. And the rainbow will be in the clouds, and it shall be seen as a memorial of the resurrection pertaining to live everlasting between God and for every living soul of every flesh upon the earth. And God said to Noah, This is that sign of the covenant that I established between me and for every flesh upon the earth. He's reaffirming it again. Promise, right? The covenant is a promise. Okay, so the sons of Noah that left the ark were Shem, Cam, and Japheth, or Japheth. Cam before the father of Canaan. Became the father of Canaan. Sorry about that. Just reading it really fast, so I get through it fast. Noah had these three sons, and from them spread everyone on earth. Okay, all men supposedly came from these three sons. Okay, what's that say? 19. Literal Aramaic idiomatic figure of speech was sowed or scattered. Okay. They all came from these three sons. Noah had these three sons, and from them spread everyone on earth. And Noah began to work the earth and planted a vineyard, first vineyard, that we know of. And he drank of his wine. Yeah, it's just tasting to see what it's like. And he got real drunk. Exposed in his home. He just lay there naked apparently. And Cam, the father of Canaan, saw the nakedness of his father. He showed him to his two brothers. Shem and Japheth took a cloak and threw it over both their shoulders and walked backwards and covered their father's nakedness with their faces averted to the back, and they did not see their father's nakedness. And Noah sobered up from the wine, which he had a headache, and knew everything his younger son did to him. Somebody must have told him. Or he was half asleep or whatever. Half awake, half sober. And he said, Cursed be Canaan to perform services for his brothers. And he said, Blessed be Shem, whose God is that Lord, and Canaan be the servant to him, etc., etc. It's a prophetic thing. And so forth, so forth. And Noah's entire age was 650 years, and then he died. Is that his eon period of his lineage? No, I think it's saying his actual age. Okay, what's this? 9:3. Okay, indicating, and every living creature shall be for you a source for food. I give you everything as the foliage of the herb. Okay, 9:3. Note: not to be killed and eaten, but to eat of its products. So when they eat these animals, they were vegetarians. Okay. So they used their byproducts, turned their milk into cheese, their cheese into whatever, and so forth. They didn't eat those animals. Genesis 10, and here's the birth records of the children of Noah, Shem, Cam, and Japheth, to whom was born children after the flood. The children of Japheth were Gomer, Magog, etc., etc. The children of Gomer were Ashkenaz, Ruphath, Togarmah. The children of Javan were Elisha, Tarshish, and Kittim, Rodanim. And from these separated those that became the isle of the nations in their language, according to their culture and among their own people. And the children of Cam were Cush, Mizraim, Put, and Canaan. Children of Cush were Sheba, Havilah, Sabat, Ramah, Sabteka, and the sons of Ramah were Sheba and Deran. And to Cush was born Nimrod, who began to be a giant of the earth. Okay, so have a quick look down here. Okay, TN2:1, literal Aramaic name. Germans, TN2:2, literal Aramaic name. Anglos, Anglo-Saxons, Aramaic name. Medes, Greeks, to TN2:5, literal Aramaic names. The last three names do not resemble any names that the translator is familiar with at this time. It'll take some more research to find out the correct transliteration of the modern derivatives. TN6, and he was the head of his kingdom. Okay, yeah. And to Cush was born Nimrod, who began to be a giant of the earth. He was a lion-hearted giant before the Lord. That is why it is said, like Nimrod, a lion-hearted giant before the Lord. And he was the head of his kingdom, which included Babylon, Erech, Akkad, and Calah in the land of Sumer. From those lands there emerged the Asherai, who built Nineveh and the towns of Rehoboth and Calah, and Rezin, the great city between Nineveh and Calah. So this is a history of these people, right? And the Asherai, the Asheret, who spoke the Asheret, the Assyrians, and this is where this language came from. Well, supposedly God spoke to all men using Aramaic. Okay, so later on they've gone there to the Mesopotamian region, and then a certain family gave birth to Abraham, the patriarch, who was born in Ur of Chaldea. So he was a Chaldean, and they spoke this Aramaic, and then they incorporated or mixed it with the Assyrian, the local language, which became Assyrian Aramaic. Okay, there was no actual Assyrian Aramaic; they just merged the two, and from this came the Assyrian Aramaic, or Asheret, right, which these are translated from. This Genesis is translated from. Again, it goes on about all these different nations. Okay. It's like a lineage, descendant, genealogy. Okay, and to Shem, Japheth's great brother, there were also born children. He became the father of all the children of passage. What are the children of passage? 10:21. Aramaic name. No, that's the wrong one. Literal Aramaic idiom, Hebrews. 10:24. Literal Aramaic name, Hebrew, comes from this name Awer, or Awer, to cross. It's incorrect. To cross over. Someone who crosses over, implying passage, because they crossed over two rivers apparently, or a river. Okay, he was a lion-hearted giant. 10:9. Doesn't have a footnote there. Okay. This is 10:10. 10:10. And he was the head of his kingdom, which included Babylon, Erech, Akkad, and Calah in the land of Sumer. That's Nimrod, a lion-hearted giant before the Lord. Literal Aramaic name, possibly where the name Iraq came from, although Iraqis are predominantly now Arabs. They're now Arabs because they obviously invaded it. The name may have survived in the folklore of the minorities, the descendants that still inhabit the land of ancient Mesopotamia, the Asherai, and the Assyrians. Genesis 11, and the whole earth was one language, and everyone spoke the same dialect. According to this translator, God spoke to them all using Aramaic, and they spoke Aramaic. They all spoke the same dialect, the same language. Genesis 11:1. Literal Aramaic idiomatic construction, and all earth was one tongue and spoke one. Yeah, spoke one language. And it was that they came from the east. They found an empty spot in the land of Sumer, or Shinar, and they settled there. 11:2. Literal Aramaic idiomatic figure of speech, took from the east. came from the east. They kept moving east, from the Garden of Eden, Paradise, to east, and into the east, and into the east, until they got to Sumer, or Shinar. Yeah, and they said, obviously to each other, a man to his friend, again let us cast bricks and burn them in a fire. And bricks became their stone, and they used bitumen for mortar. It's like tar, black tar, right? And they said, let us again build ourselves a city and a ziggurat with its head in the sky, and let us call ourselves by a name. I said Genesis 4:11, literal Aramaic idiomatic expression. Make a name for ourselves, or use a national name. Call themselves some sort of nation, right? Have a name, a national name, which was probably Babylon. Okay. And they said, let us again build ourselves a city and a ziggurat. That's Persian, right? It's a Persian tower. They walk up and worship God, with its head in the sky. So they put this really, really tall tower up in the clouds. And let us call ourselves by a name, so we do not end up scattered all over the earth. So it could have been the Sumerians, the Babylonians, one of those names, probably the Babylonians being the Tower of Babel. Okay. Yeah, they said, let us again build ourselves a city and a ziggurat with its head in the sky, and let us call ourselves by a name, or a nation, so we do not end up scattered all over the earth. And the Lord came down to see the city, so he actually went down there, and the ziggurat that humanity had built. And the Lord said, behold, oh look, the people are one people, they're all united, all working together, and there's one language for all of them, and this is what they thought of doing. Wow, they're very clever. But from now on they will not be at a loss to do whatever they imagine. Okay? So whatever they imagine, they'd create. Let us go down there and divide the languages, so that men will not listen to their companion's tongue, or they won't understand. Okay. 11:7. Literal Aramaic idiomatic expression, retained heed each other. They won't understand each other. Won't be able to make sense of what did you say? I don't know what they were talking about. I don't speak your language. Let us go down there and divide the languages, so that men will not listen to their companion's tongue. And the Lord scattered them from there over the face of all the earth, or that region. Okay, so it's just one land mass. Spread them out there, and they left off building the city. They just abandoned it. Okay, that's why its name is called Babylon, because it was there that the Lord made the languages of all the earth sound like babbling. And from there, the Lord spread them all over the earth. So one's way at the top of this tower. Hey mate, down the bottom, you pass me a brick. What? Calling me a dick? Well, they had different languages, so you wouldn't understand what he said. Anyway, so yeah, and there's the record of the descendants of Shem. To Shem, who lived 100 years, was born Arpachshad 2 years after the flood. Shem's line after the birth of Arpachshad was 500 years, and then were born many sons and daughters. And it goes on and on. Okay, and it goes to Nahor. Nahor's line after Terah was born to him, lasted 119 years, and to him were both born many sons and daughters. And Terah lived 75 years, and to him were born Abram, or Ibram in Islam, Nahor and Haran. These are the descendants of Terah. To Terah was born Abram, Nahor and Haran, and to Haran was born Lot. It's Abraham's nephew. And Haran lived during the lifetime of Terah, his father, in the land where he was born, Ur of the Chaldees, Mesopotamia, which is in Assyria. Abram and Nahor consecrated for themselves women. They married women. Made themselves blessed, holy for themselves, marrying a righteous, just woman, right? God worshippers, God lovers. And the name of Abram's woman was Sarai, and the name of Nahor's woman was Milcah, the daughter of Haran, who was the father of Milcah and Iscah. And it happened that Sarai was barren; she had no children. Her womb was sealed up. She was infertile; she couldn't have children. And Terah fetched his son Abram, Haran's son, and his grandson Lot, and Sarai his daughter-in-law. Here, and Terah fetched his son. So Abraham must have married her to be the daughter-in-law, and the wife of Abraham, his son. Right? So she was his wife. And he went out with them from Ur of the Chaldees to go to the land of Canaan, and they came as far as Haran and settled there. So he left there, right? But at the age of Terah was 205 years, and Terah died in Haran. Genesis 12, and the Lord said to Abram, go from the land from where you were born, Ur of Chaldea, and from the house of your father, to the land that I will show you, and I shall make you a great nation, and I shall bless you, and I shall make great your name and a blessing, and I shall bless those who bless you, and curse those who curse you, and I shall bless all the generations of the earth through you and your offspring. It's future, right? A future promise. And Abram did as the Lord commanded him, and Lot, his nephew, went along with him. And Abram was 75 years of age when he left Haran, good age. And Abram fetched Sarai his wife, and Lot his brother's son, obviously his nephew then, and all their domesticated animals that they had raised. Literal Aramaic expression, the souls they made. Basically raised livestock. From when they first popped out, were born to maturity. And the offspring they had produced in Haran, and they left to go to the land of Canaan, and they arrived in the land of Canaan. And they arrived in the land of Canaan. And Abram passed over the land until he came to the land of Shechem, and up to the chestnut of Moreh, and the Canaanites still lived there. And the Lord revealed it to Abram, and told him, to your offspring I will give this land, the land of Canaan. And he built an altar for the Lord there, where this was revealed to him. So through that altar, right, God revealed to him what he had planned. And Abram passed over the land until he came to the land of Shechem, and up to and from there he departed for the mountain east of Beth-el. It's the name of God, El. It's probably house. Bethlehem, house. God's house, the house of God, east of the house of God. And there he pitched his tent with Beth-el, El to the west, and Ai from the east, and he built an altar for the Lord there, and he called on the name of the Lord. And Abram took up and left together with his bearers, and headed south. There was famine in the land and Abram went down to Egypt to live there, because the famine consumed the land. And apparently it's a land of plenty, because they had the Nile. They used to the Nile, right, upper, lower, and on each bank, when the Nile over flooded a couple of times a year, it left this black soil, or the soil on either side of the banks, which was really fertile. That's why it's called the Fertile Crescent. It's fertile. So it was good for growing crops. So what they do is they grow crops on either side while the Nile's still chill. And then they harvest it, put it in their barns, their pyramids or barns, like store the food. They're always ahead, right? In times of it's like disaster or something like that, or threat. They always got this reserved food to feed the people, and then they'd go back, because all the people would come together and be they'd be artists and plumbers and all that sort of stuff, and they'd all come together to plant right? And then come together to harvest, and then store it all away and go back to whatever they were: piano tuner, guitar player, artist, whatever, right? But they was united at the time of growing and harvesting of the food, right? The wheat, whatever they were growing. Okay. So yeah, he knew about them having plenty. So he went down there. Okay. Famine in the land, and Abraham went down to Egypt to live there because of the famine. Because the famine consumed the land, and he was close to entering Egypt. As he was close to entering Egypt, he said to Sarai, his wife, "Behold, or look, I know that you are a beautiful wife to look at. She must have been gorgeous. And as the Egyptians see you, they will say, 'This is his wife.' They will kill me and let you live. We will say that you are my sister. Then they will be nice to me because of you, and they'll let me live because of you." And as Abraham entered Egypt, the Egyptians saw that his wife was very beautiful, and the courtiers of Pharaoh, or the king, because Pharaoh means is Greek for house, right, saw her and praised her before Pharaoh. And Abraham's wife was fetched to the house of Pharaoh, and Abraham was treated well because of her, as he stated that he would be, and was given flocks and bulls, donkeys and servants, maidservants, husbandmen and camels. Yeah, and the Lord struck the Pharaoh and all his household with great plagues because Sarai was the wife of Abraham. Well, he didn't know that, but he suffered, right, while this guy got rich off his back. And the Pharaoh called, and the Lord struck the Pharaoh and all his household with great plagues because Sarai was the wife of Abram. And the Pharaoh called Abram and told him, "Hey, what's this that you did to me? Why did you not reveal to me that this was your wife?" You must have nearly slept with her or something, because she's so hot. "And why did you say, 'This is my sister,' and offer her to me for a wife? Behold, now fetch your wife and leave." And the Pharaoh commanded his men to send him and his wife away together with everything he had. Maybe God revealed that, Yeah, that's why he got plenty, and then he gets kicked out. Right, he's got plenty. He's got all that he wanted. Yeah. God really looked after him, right? Okay, we'll go to 17:20. What's this? 12:17. And the Lord struck the Pharaoh and all his household with great plagues because Sarai was the wife of Abram. 12:17, literal Aramaic idiomatic construction. And there struck the Lord the Pharaoh with the strikes, him and the children of his home. Yeah. I suppose that was like a warning.